Hey everybody, welcome to another chat between and today I am joined by Simel Menezes from Microsoft. Simel, how you doing? You good?
Hi, John. Yeah, doing good. Excited for today.
Yeah, so today's topic, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to go through some key takeaways from Microsoft Ignite. We're going to go through generally the Copilot, some of the stuff that come out through the whole Copilot announcements, go through some of the security announcements, and just a general chit chat between myself and you. And we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds
So, if
great.
you don't know me by now, my name is John Jarvis. I'm a principal architect at Sicilian, Microsoft MVP, focusing on anything from the endpoint devices with Intune, Windows 365, and Microsoft Security. Samel, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your day-to-day job as well, please.
Yeah, so I'm a modern work and security specialist here at Microsoft. I've been with the company around 5 years, and my remit today is to help our customers prepare and move from their collaboration stack with Microsoft, adopt our endpoint management solutions, identity solutions, and security, as well as now Copilot, which we'll be focusing on today.
Yeah, so if you've been living under a rock for the past year and never heard of Copilot before, lots of stuff was announced at Ignite, and also the kind of months before and stuff. Like Samel, use it kind of day to day at the moment. What is Copilot for Microsoft 365 as it is now
Yeah.
called?
Yeah, so the name changed, something that we do a lot here at Microsoft. We've had it for a few good months now internally. And for those that don't know it, it's you bring the likes of ChatGPT that you already know, and all the buzz that you've seen around it, and you plug that into all of the data that you have inside your Microsoft estate, right? So your Outlook, your Teams data, SharePoint, OneDrive, use all of that in your tenant to have an engine that you can query and get all of the answers that you need. Just like if you go to Bing Chat today or one of those Chat GPT environments, you can ask questions and it will draft documents for you. You'll have the same working for you in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, right, in your Office suite. But I think one of the most key areas that we'll also discuss today, I think, is how this data is protected and how it stays within your tenant and it's not used to train the models.
Yeah, 100%. And something that kind of is such a key talking point at the moment within the whole industry. It's just not only about what AI can actually do for creativity, for productivity, for even training users, for upskilling users within organizations. It's what is actually going to happen when we get AI. What can we do to actually get technically ready for Copilot, for Microsoft 365 Copilot, or any of the other 155 plus Copilots that have been announced across the whole Microsoft stack now, ranging from Dynamics, Viva, the massive Viva announcements within Ignite as well, with Viva being engaged and being integrated directly with learning, within goals, within Viva Engage, and all of the different Viva products out there. And it's going across the stack now. So I'm seeing a lot of people confused about what's Copilot, where is Copilot sit, but is Microsoft putting that Copilot tool in place for every single product in their stack. So you might have seen recently people using Windows. You've got Windows Copilot for Windows now, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. Again, name changes are putting us everywhere. But also the whole branding update now with Bing Chat Enterprise. Bing Chat Enterprise now being called Copilot, and you can get to that now by going to copilot.microsoft.com and start having that ChatGPT like experience directly within your the confines of your Microsoft 365 tenant as well, which I think is amazing. Some of the security and compliance that you have within your tenant, and it now goes into that old Bing Chat Enterprise, like Copilot scenario. So looking up company data, everything kind of stays within your tenant and within your trust boundary. Anything else that you found from Ignite that you found interesting?
I think the name change is something that's relevant to talk about. I know it's not tech, but it helps us understand, I think, the strategy of the company a little bit. So before you had Bing Chat, you had Modern Work Copilot, and a few few other bits and bobs. Now, Copilot is basically what you have in Bing. So it's that engine that you query and get answers for, right? Now, this engine, Copilot, can be adapted to modern work. Copilot for modern work can be adapted for sales. Copilot for sales can be adapted for something else. Copilot for Windows, right? So the name change, you can think of it as grabbing that engine that we have that runs inside your tenant data, and you adapt it to other products. Okay, so the name change at least brings a bit of clarity on what we're doing with the product, right? And I think Bing being available for all the customers with Entra ID now will ensure that people can start using these tools without the organizations having issues with their data, right? So today, if your user wants to use an LLM system and they're using a consumer grade version of it, it's likely that that product is free to a certain extent because it's educating the algorithm, it's educating the GPT engine behind it. Bing for Enterprise, Copilot, ensures that that data stays within your tenant, right? Now, in terms of adoption, John, there's a lot of stuff and preparation as well. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done around data security, as you're saying. And I think one of the main considerations that we need to have is that Copilot inherits your own permissions.
Yeah.
So you can think of it as if you have access to it, even if you don't know you have access to it, and now you have Copilot, that data is now readily available to you. Right. So I think a lot of the preparation work that we need to do, and I think that's what Sicilian as well does with some of our customers, is really that preparation piece around data security, ensuring that your data is inside your environment, that your accesses are correct. I would like to discuss a little bit that with you as well. So that sort of work that you do with your customers around.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we got a slide here about the technical readiness. So if we can get that, if we can bring that up. Here we go. So this is one of the things that we talk about daily. So Rob Quickenden and myself, we do these Copilot readiness workshops with our customers, with Microsoft. It seems like daily at the moment we're talking about Copilot, but these are some of the technical preparation stuff we do with our organization, stuff to be done with early access program customers, and this is our general guidance for what we need to do. So as you kind of said before, licensing has to be there. So Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 licensing. And the second one here is the AID, Entra ID based user account. So when we talk about this, quite a few people in the industry have got kind of confused on what this means. So I've spoke to a lot of organizations go, oh, but we've got on-premise Active Directory. That's okay. Like on-premise Active Directory is absolutely fine. We're not our guidance isn't to get rid of that on-premise Active Directory, but what we need is, and most organizations now probably have this, is Entra ID Connect. I think that's what it's called now. It used to be AAD Connect.
AAD Connect, yeah. Another name change.
As long as you've got users synchronized to Entra ID, aka Azure AD, as long as you've got those users synchronized up into the cloud, you're using either password hash sync or pass-through authentication, absolutely fine. You have all your analytics of everything with password hash sync and pass-through, and with password hash sync. And that's kind of what we want. That's the model that we need, the hybrid identity. It doesn't matter if you've got on-premise AD. All we need is that hybrid, identification model. Also big things as well, Exchange Online, mailboxes to users. Again, we still have people, believe it or not, that are on Exchange on premise. They're still out there, folks. OneDrive deploys to all users as well. So OneDrive, Samuel, can you just talk to us about the importance of OneDrive and how that comes into effect for Copilot users, please?
Yeah, so the way Copilot works is that it has access to all of the data that you have in Microsoft Graph. And you can look at Microsoft Graph as most of your Microsoft 365 data. So it will be all the documents that you have in OneDrive, SharePoint, right? So that's why we talk about having a big chunk of your data, of your files in OneDrive and SharePoint, because that will be directly the main repository for Copilot. Then your inboxes, if you're there on the cloud with us, they're part of the Graph system as well. And your Teams chats, your Teams meetings that you record will be fed into Graph as well. So if you have all that data in Graph, from a data prep perspective, you are very close to being ready to go. Okay. Now there are other data repositories that you might have that you want to connect it back to Copilot, and there were a few Graph connectors that we announced at Ignite. So if you're using the likes of Confluence, Trello, Jira, and some other tools that tend to sit in Teams, those connectors are now in place. You probably have to work with a partner like Sicilian to get those connections built. But once they're done, then Copilot can use that information as well and bring it into your query. But from a data repository perspective, if you're using OneDrive, if that's your main tool, half of the work, I'd say, is done already for that adoption.
Yeah, 100%. So that adoption piece, in my opinion, is really important. There's the adoption, what's it called, management page, dashboard now available to help users with prompts and building out prompts and understanding exactly what Copilot can do as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so that's so it's a dashboard called Copilot Dashboard. It gives you a few different things. So it helps you understand where you are in your company readiness. So if you only have a few users on Exchange Online, for instance, it will tell you that only 10% of your organization is ready for Copilot, and this is why. And as you drive usage and adoption, you can understand where your users are using Copilot. So are they using Copilot in Teams? Are they using it in SharePoint, OneDrive, Windows, PowerPoint, Excel, etc., email as well? So on your Outlook, you can understand where it is being used, and then it gives you a metric of potential time that's being saved as well, so you can measure the impact real time. And I think that gives the visibility that we didn't have till now on how it's used, what you need to do, and then what are the most common use cases. Because if it's not being used in Teams, then maybe there's an education and a user adoption that needs to be done. Maybe you need to figure out champions in your business that should start collecting and sharing best practices in terms of querying, because it's a completely new way of doing search, completely new way of building documents, and there is a big chunk of user education that needs to be done.
Yeah, with that as well, though, at the moment, people who want to use Copilot are going to have to use that new Outlook for Windows, which is dividing people's opinions on some people like it, some people hate it. I personally, I really like the new Outlook for Windows, but that's got a big star next to it because Copilot's coming for the classic Outlook very soon. I think in January is kind of what
I think it's start of the next year. Yes.
Yeah, so that's just another requirement, and users must be using the current channel within the Microsoft 365 apps. So people customers that are using old versions of Office or not using something like Intune or Config Manager to keep their Microsoft 365 applications up to date, that becomes very important, making sure that the whole test cycle of a new Microsoft 365 apps is constantly being evolved, constantly being updated, because Copilot, it have to be on the latest version basically to be able to make that work efficiently, because Copilot's still being updated, like I think weekly, with new additions being put into place, new capabilities, new AI backend, it's stretching all the time, it's evolving all the time. That's what's really exciting about this Copilot journey, in my opinion. Or use the Office web app, like whatever's easier.
Yeah, just use it on the browser to be ready for you. Worst case scenario. Yeah,
100%. And users must be using Teams desktop. So Teams is basically the place where Copilot is going to be used day to day. That's going to be it's where it's embedded. It's where I think your organizations are going to get probably the most benefit through Teams, in my opinion. What let's kind of delve off about the technical preparation.
I think that's a mixed one. I'm not sure I 100% agree
That's
with
what I was going to ask you. What's your opinion? What is that kind of Copilot? In your opinion, what are users going to benefit from most? What application out of the Microsoft 365 apps?
I would say Microsoft Teams will benefit the most users. Yeah. Definitely, right? You have a meeting, you start Copilot or the recording feature, and you get the intelligent recap now. So you get, once the meeting is done, you get a summary of the meeting, the recording, and it's broken down into parts based on the conversations, gives you tasks and follow-up tasks that you might need to do, and also summarize the meeting for you, right? That use case alone is gonna be your personal assistant for everybody in your organization. That's very powerful, I think. Then you have the ability to have basically Copilot inside of your Teams site, so you can ask it a question. So you're in Teams, I can ask it, can you give me a summary of all the interactions I've had with Cecilian, right? It will pick my emails with you and my emails with your colleagues, Teams chats, meetings that we've had, summarizes everything for me, okay? This will benefit absolutely everybody in every single organization. But I do have a lot of calls with customers where we're trying to understand and actually measure the impact that this has. It's not easy, okay? There is clearly impact. It saves you a lot of time, but putting that into a dollar figure is a bit hard. Yeah. So some businesses look at it in a different way. So they have very particular processes like drafting or doing proposals or bids for certain contracts, right? Mm-hmm. So they focus on this use case for their 100 sales staff. We just want to draft bills. Let's do that. How much time am I saving here? That's our business case. And then we expand it to the rest of the business. So I think Teams, yes, it serves everybody very well as a baseline, but then you have specific use cases that the return can be so much higher because it's your core role. It's where you spend most of your time. So yeah, I do agree with you, but at the same time, it depends on the use case.
So you yourself, what's been the most beneficial for yourself then?
I use Teams all the time. So I'm always asking it questions. And for me, one thing that happens a lot is we had a meeting last week and somebody said something or a document was shared and I can't remember where the document is, the name of the document. So I had a team meeting last week and my manager shared this document with me. Can you find it? I can't. Yeah, it gives me the document. I use that all the time because there's so much information going around and I forget the name of it. I forget where it's stored and he just finds it for me. So I think that's my largest use case or most common. And then just emails, drafting emails, helping me summarize threads as well. When you're looped in the middle of a thread that's been going on for days, just, hey, summarize everything that's been done. And you get that in a minute. But I think for me, those are the biggest ones. Are you using it yourself already?
Yeah, so what we've seen and what I think is really on top of the Teams one is the PowerPoint presentations. So especially when we've created statement of works or we've got technical documentation that we want to turn into a PowerPoint. For me personally, I hate the creation of a PowerPoint when it's fresh, right? I hate going, how am I going to start putting this deck together? How am I going to start piecing this up after the introduction? And what I love about that is you can just feed in the document, so a statement of works, proposal, etc., and just say, can you create me a presentation based around this document? Feed it into Copilot, and bam, PowerPoint presentation comes up, 5 slides, ready for you to kind of start. And again, people listening, do not then just assume that presentation is good to go and use.
Yes,
go through it. Go through it. Make sure that the data is correct. Add stuff. Ask Copilot to modify parts and slides if you need to. But make sure you're doing the work on top and beyond of PowerPoint. Make that your start. Make that your 60% of putting everything together. And then you can start working from it. And that's kind of, for me, the game-changing thing for Copilot. It's just that. And that's where I think you can organizations can save money and time for each user is that first 5 to 10 minutes, or even longer if you're someone like me, who just takes a while to kind of get it all started.
It is. It gives you the skeleton, doesn't it?
100%.
Gives
Yeah.
you the skeleton, tries to fill it out for you, and then you can use it for every little bone and help it populate it for you. You need to guide Copilot once the skeleton is done, but you need to fact check a lot of stuff, right? It will try to find, will populate the data. You need to fact check it. Like, that's your job. But now you don't need to build a skeleton anymore, and that's probably 50% of the time when building it.
Yeah, and something we done, actually, myself and Jamie Riddle, we sat down with we was just going through Copilot, and we was going, let's create a job description for account manager at Sicilian, and it just went through within 20 to 30 seconds, created a bang on job description for an account manager at Sicilian. It was like, it was really, really good. And that, 20 seconds compared to, that could take 2 to 3 hours to create a job description. Again, that 20 seconds is, and the prompting for that, it saves that probably there alone probably saved over an hour's worth of work just in 20 seconds.
You see how it's, for a business that wants to procure Copilot, it's so much easier to find the return on investment in those scenarios, right? We have this work, which is drafting or building job descriptions. I save 2 hours when I do one. That equates to, I don't know, a few dozens of dollars or pounds when you're doing that. It's very easy to find the return on investment there.
Yeah, 100%. So one thing that we did speak about, one thing we did speak about earlier, and it kind of comes into that, is that data recommendations.
Yes.
And this is something that organizations need to be really careful of, especially when deploying Copilot for the first time. So one of the main things that needs to happen is that data needs to be in Microsoft 365, right? It needs to be in SharePoint, in OneDrive, and that's where the semantic indexing takes place. Gives an index of all of your files, brings everything into Copilot, so we can use the data for good data. What's like, I'd say, like, your top recommendation when it comes to data for Copilot?
I think that's maybe one of the most important questions, right? You have organizations that have a very good data security strategy in place already. Others that do not have it. It's a bit what I was saying before. When you have Copilot, you're giving each user, and whoever pretends to be that user, which is a security and a different security conversation as well, but you're giving that user access to all the data that user really has access to, right? So if I'm in sales, I might have access to the SharePoint sites from a finance team, even though that's data that I should not have access to. If I don't have Copilot, I probably won't be able to find that. Yeah. But if I have Copilot will find it. So now we're at a stage where we need to ensure that data that I should not see is properly encrypted, is properly blocked out of my site, right? So DLP and the likes of information protection are more relevant than ever.
Yeah, and we're having these conversations daily, these purview conversations, because organizations have so much data now in Microsoft 365. Some organizations probably been using it for the past decade now, so lots of data in there. And we've got to be worried about that data sprawl. We've also got to be worried, in my opinion, about bad actors. So bad actors from outside of the organization. So for me, this is where stuff like Defender for Office 365 becomes really important. So removing that attack metrics for phishing attacks and stopping that kill chain when it comes to emails as well. One of the things that you kind of touched on there, and is I think really important, is the CASB solution. So Defender for Cloud Apps, for me, becomes really important in here, because we can bring in policies for files. We can bring in policies for we can bring in policies for files, making sure that all data is at least labeled. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean that it's encrypted off the bat. Depends what your information protection labels say. But that's just one of, for me, really, really important to have there. And something that you spoke about before is like adaptive DLP. Do you want to give us a bit of a talk about adaptive DLP and how that can help Copilot users?
Yeah. So for two ways of seeing it, but it's, if you're familiar with intra-ID Plan 2, there's a concept called user risk. The concept of user risk looks into heuristics to understand if the user is who they claim to be, and kind of gives it a risk level, right? John is at a high risk of not being John because something happened. And that can be because John is now talking to us from his office, but maybe in an hour's time, somebody tries to log in through New York, right? We capture that and say John is at a high risk of maybe having been breached. And when you look at data classification and DLP, if you think about it, this needs to have these heuristics. It needs to understand if John is at a high risk, right?
Mhm.
And what adaptive protection brings is that integration between the risk level of John and access to data, right? It's no longer just about where the data sits and whether John should have access to it or not. It's about whether John is also who he claims to be, right?
Yeah.
So we're bringing that into DLP, which again, because Copilot runs in the context of the user, it inherits that as well.
Yeah, 100%. One question we've had from Imran Ali was the qualifying criteria for Copilot for Microsoft 365. So that is 300 users at the moment for customers that are on an EA agreement. So that's taken out quite a lot of the industry at the moment. Not everyone's on an EA agreement. You've got to be over 1,000 users for an EA agreement, and with a certain amount of spend or something. Again, I'm not a licensing expert, so I'm not going to pretend I know exactly everything. So if you're on a CSP or anything on that side, it's not, you're not eligible as an organization yet to go on to use Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. But there's rumors, there's mumblings and stuff of early next year, at least for CSP organizations that are on a CSP agreement at the moment. So again, for me, Samal, if organizations are going out there and they want Copilot for Microsoft 365, do not let this be a detractor. Get technically ready now. Like, don't wait until it's announced and go, oh yeah, we want it now, and then go, oh wait, we're not prepared. Mm-hmm. For me, these next couple of months, if it's 2, 3, 4 months, becomes that time for you to get technically ready. If you then don't want to use Copilot in the future for whatever reason, man, your Microsoft 365 tenant is going to be in a very good state. You're going to have really good data protection. Everything is going to be crisp, how I like it, using DLP, using information protection, rights, role-based access, Office Defender, all the stuff that we spoke about will all be ready for you. So even if for whatever reason you as an organization decide it's not ready for you yet, this
you'll be a better
muscle, right?
You'll have a better collaboration state, you'll have a better security state as well, so you'll be more protected. And now you have data security and governance in place. So you gain that visibility and you protected your files a little bit better. Now, I think what's key on the sentence that you said there is the yet. Okay, it's not with CSP yet. We hear a lot of mumbling. I don't have an official timeline or anything. I don't know of one, but we're hearing that it will come. It's a matter of time. So we do need to be patient, and it's going to take a few months, as you were saying, and that's exactly the time that you have and need to be ready. So to ensure that your identities are secure, that you have a strategy, a data strategy in place, that your data is in OneDrive and SharePoint, that your users are using Teams, that you have that AD Connect if you're in a hybrid state. Outlook is it's online, so it gives you time to do and plan all of those migrations to then adopt Copilot once it comes out and it's available for you. Now, Imran asked about the 300 seats, and that is the threshold that we have for now. So you need to have 300 seats of Copilot. So when you're building Copilot, and I think this is something you might be able to talk to John as well. There's a process that will happen in the background, which is going to be the semantic index. It's a process where your documents, your data is indexed to Copilot. and that return investment, we're seeing it around the 300 mark. So that's the communication that we've had internally on why the 300 seats is there for now. It's not been clear whether that's going to change or not for the future from where I stand.
That's also just like the elephant in the room is also Copilot takes a lot of computing power in the background. It takes a lot, and the cost of it in the background on Microsoft's end and the data centers to actually get it ready for organizations. The cost has got to make some type of return, like has got to be there for Microsoft to be able to use, to be able to justify turning it on for that many users. So I think 300 is going to be the benchmark for the foreseeable future. I don't know when it goes to CSP if they'll cut it down, if they'll cut it down further. But I think in this early phase, and we are at an early phase with Copilot at the moment. It's just that's just got to be kind of where it is, and understandably whereabouts it is. But the semantic indexing, as you said, is right. I can delve that if anyone that's on this call wants to delve further into this. We've got a call to action at the end where we have a 2-hour Copilot business briefing that we could offer as an organization, and we go through the whole semantic index in there. So kind of what it does for an organization, how it looks, how it changes an organization's day-to-day approach with data within Microsoft 365 as well. Excluding content, which I think is really important as well. There's some data that you just might not want to be part of the Copilot framework. So all of that aside as well. So a little bit of call to action before the call to action later. But we're hitting 11:32, and we've still got, in my opinion, what was a really kind of big announcement. So I think we covered everything here in terms of in terms of like getting everything ready. We could probably go on for this for another hour.
We could speak for it. There's one thing that I'd like to just mention to Imran, right? So I think if you're an organization that has fewer than 300 seats, what you could do today is use Copilot, so the former Bing Chat Enterprise, ensure that that's ready in your organization. So you give the LLM to your users in some form. And then you can look at Teams Premium as well, which brings some of the AI capabilities that we discussed today, especially in particularly the intelligent recap, into your Teams estate as well. And that requirement of 300 seats is not there. So there are a few alternatives that you can explore as well.
Yeah, and so for me, one of the big announcements came around security. I'm always going to say that because I'm a bit of a Microsoft security fanboy. So of course I'm going to say that. But it's the Defender XDR that's just been announced, and it's nothing. I'll say it's nothing new in terms of technology. But it's just now the single pane of glass for. Hang on a second. It's a single pane of glass for everything. So your Defender for endpoint, your Defender for cloud apps, Sentinel. Yes. Defender for cloud, all into one single pane of glass, which becomes really important because the messaging that we give as an organization, as Cecidian, and what Microsoft give as an organization is this XDR platform, this all-in-one security platform to rule the roost. There's no need for other vendors for other vendors when we have the Microsoft 365 E5 plan. So what this does now, the XDR announcement, is it brings everything into one place. It brings one single pane of glass for everything now. So when before you were maybe using your Defender portal for Defender for Office 365 and Defender for Endpoint, but then having to go into a whole different platform for Microsoft Sentinel, it stops that now. It brings everything to one platform. So everything, all of the metrics that you get from Sentinel, all the logs from absolutely anything that you can put into Sentinel, like firewalls, switches, servers, all of your Microsoft 365 analytics, anything from, and it's also good to mention any other cloud providers like Google Workspace, like AWS. You can bring all of that into Defender XDR now. I know, Samal, we spoke about it previously. Kind of, what's your kind of thoughts around that for your organizations?
So I think the name changes at Microsoft are frequent and sometimes a a bit annoying because you need to go back and relearn the names for everything, but they always point out the strategy that the company's and where the company wants to go. So Microsoft Defender 365 was focused on your M365 environment from a naming point of view. Moving to XDR means that the focus is not only on Windows and Office apps, but it also Linux, Mac OS, and Android, iOS. So cross-platform is there. And then, as you said, bringing the Azure protection through Sentinel into the same platform, getting Amazon Web Services into it, Google Cloud as well. It really is that statement saying that we want to cover everything. We want to be that single point and single pane of glass, and we want it to be Defender XDR. I think that's the main thing. And it also integrates with Security Copilot.
I was about to mention that, yeah.
Mention it. Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone's seen the videos of Security Copilot. Again, I think they'll change this name pretty soon. So Microsoft Security Copilot, they're going to change it. I will put security. Copilot for Security. I will put a bet on it that the next announcement for that will be Copilot for Security. Like, I'll put a bet on it. I don't.
It might just be.
So what that does, it actually brings the Copilot security into that Defender XDR model, and that becomes, again, exactly kind of what we said about your Copilot for security. So one of the main things that Security Copilot is there for is that gap in skill. So security, I don't think there's enough security experts out there in the world. There's a massive, there's statistics out there. Can't call it to my name, but statistics out there. There's not enough security experts out there, and there's not enough to fill the jobs that are out there. There's a big gap in the market for security experts, and Copilot is there to help with that gap in the market. So stuff like stuff within in Sentinel, for example, for creating like KQL queries, it's all there. Copilot is there to actually help you create those KQL queries, actually with your natural language and prompting to create these things straight away, which I think is going to be really game changing for a lot of organizations out there. So, but not only to create these things, but actually understand it. So if an attack has happened, to understand where the attack has come from by, again, using natural language prompts, being able to have a summary of the incidents as well in language, which you can actually then send straight to C-level. So we're not expecting C-level to be able to go through into Sentinel, understand the timelines, where that's come from, and sit down. They want to know on a report what's happened, how has it happened, where's it come from, and how can we stop it from happening again. Again, Copilot can do that straight away for security professionals as well. And one of the things that I think is really good is the reverse engineering of any attacks that has come on board. So reverse engineering, again, we talk about the gaps in skills within security. The gap for being able for people to go through and do reverse engineering of attacks is even smaller and can take days. Security Copilot happens in seconds. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that to go GA and getting some of our customers using that. But again, it's also worth mentioning, we talk about Sentinel a lot. Security Copilot is there, again, in the Defender XDR, and that will go against Entra ID. It will go against Intune. It will bring in analytics against all of the Defender suite as well. So it's not just going to be there for Sentinel users. It's going to be there for absolutely everybody. And I think that's, for me, most users are really excited about the Copilot for Microsoft 365 because it's what we all touch daily. But Security Copilot for me is going to be the game changer for everyone in the background, like the people working in security.
And if you have an SOC partner, right, that's can be leveraged by them as well. So it's not just something you have in your organization, and that means so the summaries that you mentioned is part of it. But then if you need to go and understand scripts, it does it for you. If you need to write KQL, it does it for you. Just like what we saw with GitHub Copilot, it's kind of the same idea there. And then supports you in investigation and remediation, being just a bit faster doing it.
Yeah, I know we're coming to kind of like the end of this now, Samuel, but I just wanted to point out that for those who might have missed Ignite or didn't even know Ignite happened, you can go to search for the Ignite 2023 Book of News, and there is so much within that was announced. Again, there's over 150 pages, I think, on if it's in a PDF format of all the different news. So that's going from Azure. So you've got Azure AI services, some of the compute, some of the GPU stuff that was announced with NVIDIA. Again, was just incredible. So there's stuff within the Microsoft 365 around Teams, Viva. Also, SharePoint Premium was announced as well. We haven't even touched on what SharePoint Premium can do. So there is so much across the board, and we've got 40 to 45 minutes for this, so we ain't going to be able to go through everything. But for a call to action now, we spoke about Copilot a lot. If we can bring up the slides on what we can do as an organization for our users and for other organizations. We've got some QR codes there, so feel free to give the QR codes a scan. We've got our Copilot readiness program, which is at the top. The second one down, maturity and technical readiness assessment. So all the stuff that we spoke about before, getting our organizations Copilot ready. We've got all of this within the Microsoft Marketplace, and the 6-day Copilot readiness engagement to give you kind of like that initial foot in the door for adoption and getting your users adopted. If you then want to speak to me or Rob Quickenden for 2 hours about the Copilot, if you can just go back one more slide if possible. It's there, the stakeholder workshop. If you want to talk to me about the about Copilot for 2 hours, you can scan that QR code and fill out the details. You get either myself, Rob Quickenden, talking about the good stuff of Copilot and delve deeper into what we spoke about today. I think the next slide is just a bit of what we expect for the Copilot rollout. So stakeholder workshop, what is Copilot? Some of the principles of adoption. We go into our readiness assessments. We've just been announced and awarded on the Jumpstart program with Microsoft. So there's additional funding there as well that we are able to help our customers out with. So speak to your Microsoft account manager, speak to Samal, or reach out to myself as well, and we can help with that with the jump start onto Copilot as well. So back to front, I think that Cecilian and Microsoft together, better together, I think is the thing that is the is the word in that Microsoft give for partners. But I think that's completely correct when it comes to what we can do together. Samal, anything to close out on?
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and yeah, do take this call of action and reach out to your account managers. If I'm aligned to you, reach out to me. We can talk about the Jumpstart program and what it entails and how you can potentially leverage it to get yourself both Copilot ready and have support from the likes of Sicilian, but also what Copilot would do for you and building that business case to understand the use cases in your organization.
Awesome. Cool. All right. That's that's the end of our show. Again, thank you, Samal, for joining me today. I told you it would be fun. Hopefully it was.
It was fun.
Hopefully people that are listening found it at least a little bit informative about what they can do and what's available right now. Again, if you need anything, call to action, get back to the QR codes, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.